Well, good morning and welcome to my garden. It's a lovely morning in spring, and as you see as we look around this area of my garden, that definitely spring has sprung. I love the spring season. I like the freshness that it brings with it, and also of course the promise of another new gardening year. And particularly when plants like this gorgeous magnolia, this is Magnolia butterflies, reckoned to be one of the finest yellow flowered magnolias ever introduced, breaks into growth and shows off all of its gorgeous canary yellow flowers. This is a Phil Savage hybrid, one that I featured on another garden tour that I ran just a little while ago, showing off and telling you in more detail about it. Wonderful, wonderful little tree, and definitely one that you should plant so that you can enjoy it in a few years hence, because unfortunately when you go to the garden centers, this is probably not going to be in flower, and unless you know about it, you perhaps wouldn't even think about planting it. It takes a few years for it to get into a more mature state before it starts to flower. But then when it does, as you see, it lights up the landscape with these gorgeous flowers that when you get in close and look at them, look like little tulips all on bare branches. Flowers, of course, before the leaves come out. So then as I move through the garden, you'll see that right through the center of our garden is this little stream that winds its way through. Over the years, we've found that we built these stone walls, retaining stone walls, which help to prevent erosion. And as I move down towards the stepping stones here, you'll see that it's not only ourselves that enjoy the garden, but I'm glad to say that we've got wildlife too, in that we have a family of ducks, a drake and a little duck, and in no time at all we're likely to look forward to seeing lots of little ducklings come and swim and work their way down through the stream. But as I move over onto this back area here, this back lawn as we call it, I wanted to mention a little bit about how we design and lay out the garden. As you see, we try to keep the grass areas as flat and as easy to mow as possible, and we also try to take in all obstacles so that when you think about it, grass mowing is one of the most repetitive things that you have to do in the garden. Therefore, it needs to be done as easily and as quickly as possible. That means trying to keep the areas that you mow as flat as possible, and then if there's any obstacles, take them in, plant them up in a bed, and then you're able to make sweeps back and forward across the lawn relatively easily. And then as I move into this area here, which is unfortunately often inhabited with other wildlife that we'd rather not have come visit us, and that's of course deer. And here in this part of the garden we try to add a little bit of interest both in perennials and in flowering bulbs and in evergreens, and also, as you see, we've also retained quite a lot of the natural indigenous trees that were here before we made the garden. Lots of little plants are just beginning to come, like these ornamental grasses, but right here in front of me I wanted to show you, this is the Goldie, a golden arborvitae that deer don't browse on, don't eat, and this is one that changes color through the season. During the winter time it takes on a kind of bronze green color, and now as you see in springtime it's starting to put on fresh bright yellow color too. Then I wanted to show you how we use a lot of white in the garden. To us, white is a wonderful color. It's a kind of sophisticated color. It certainly helps to brighten up and show off other colors. White is a wonderful kind of neutral color, so it will go with all other colors, like silver does too. So it's great for putting in larger drifts. And the white in this case that we use is a little triandrous daffodil variety called Thalia. Now this is a very old variety, raised in the Netherlands before the First World War by a company called Van Waveren, and what we love about it is that, as you see, it has these gorgeous flowers which are sometimes referred to as angel's tears, But this particular variety we really like because from each bulb it will produce several flowering stems, 2, 3, and even sometimes when it's growing vigorously, as many as 5 flowering stems per bulb. Also, I wanted to show you this golden yellow spirea. This is one called Lemon Princess, a variety that I've been growing here in this spot for at least 15 or 16 years. I never really do anything to it. The deer never bother it. It's tough, it's hardy. I could prune it back, but I never seem to have time, so I pretty much just leave it as it is. And then each spring, as you see, it comes out with these beautiful bright lemon yellow leaves that help also to brighten up this area. You will see how over the years branches have leaned out and touched and then rooted into the ground, so we happen to have lots of little baby lemon princesses coming that one day I'll probably lift and transplant. And then as I work my way up the hill here, you'll see that in this particular area we use a lot of both narcissus and also hellebores. I should mention that in amongst the narcissus, the daffodils here, we use quite a lot of perennials that are just now beginning to emerge. Things like hostas that come up through, and as the daffodil foliage dies down, they come up to disguise the daffodil foliage, because of course you have to leave the daffodil foliage on it to then store the energy for next year. And as I work my way up into this part of our garden, which we call our woodland garden, you see that we really have concentrated on building natural drifts of ground cover. This area gets very little attention, but it manages to certainly brighten up and give a very nice kind of woodlandy feel to it. One of the things about hellebores is that the flowers are not really made of petals like conventional flowering plants. They are in fact a kind of modified stem, which is neat because they last a very long time. A lot of flowering plants that have petals will simply fall off and disintegrate, but with these they come out first of all with a bright color, and then as they age they go through to a softer green color. So it's kind of naturalized here, and it kind of almost looks after itself, which suits us just fine. Now as I move through this area of the ground, regrettably I have to show you a few stumps, and that's rather sad because these ash trees became victims of the emerald ash borer, and so we had to have quite a lot of those taken down. We lost some of the shade, but as they always say, there's always a benefit in that. Anything that happens like that, a storm or something happens to your trees, it often opens up new opportunities to grow plants that you wouldn't otherwise have. Here in this part of the area, as you see, again, we try to use ground covering plants. This lamium here with its silvery leaves. We certainly have some peonies in through here, and more spireas that are white flowering that flower a little later. And then as I work my way through this part of the garden, next to a busy road, you'll hear traffic on there, but you'll also see that we use quite a lot of perimeter planting to first of all screen and provide privacy, but also to cut down a little bit on the noise. And as we go through here, I really just wanted to let you see this beautiful creamy yellow flowering magnolia. This is one called Yellow Lanterns, and this one is really gorgeous, but not everybody can grow it because this is quite a large growing tree, somewhere between 20 and 40 foot. It grows often as a single stem tree, but in my case here, this one I also planted about 18 or 19 years ago. As you see, it's a multi-stem tree, and now at this time of year when it breaks out with these gorgeous big kind of goblet tulip shaped flowers that incidentally have a very nice fragrance, and when I get in close you'll see that the base of the flowers have a very nice kind of pinkish coloring to the base of the flowers too. carried in profusion all over the plant. This definitely helps to add a great deal to the color of our garden and the freshness, and of course with a lovely nice fragrance too. It adds a very nice kind of smell to the spring air. So this is Magnolia Yellow Lantern, another Phil Savage hybrid that is really gorgeous, but just be aware that it gets quite large and therefore may not just be suitable for everybody's garden. But if you've got the space, this is also a very fine tree that we look forward to seeing it flower each and every year. This is Magnolia Yellow Lantern.